Hello and welcome to this delayed review for episode 4 of season 6. As you may remember me saying at the end of the last review, I was away at Buck a couple of weeks ago, and I just gotta say, what a fantastic weekend it was. A whole 2 days of making friends, having fun, and Sean. Yeah, you had to be there. So anyway, I'd just like to start by giving a quick shout out to all the event organisers and the awesome people I met over those 2 days. Thank you all so much for making the final Buck such an amazing experience. But since then, I have unfortunately been sick, which has kept me from recording and consequently delayed my reviews for this episode and the next. But now I am back and ready to get back up to date with the season, and the fact that there hasn't been a new episode this week has really helped to give me enough time to catch up. So let's get started by reviewing On Your Marks. Following the acquisition of their Cutie Marks last season, Apple Bloom, Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo are now stuck wondering what to do next. They each agree that they should set out to fulfill their destiny of helping other ponies with Cutie Mark problems, but their efforts are met with little success. Eventually, they decide to pursue their own personal interests for fun, which proves to be especially difficult for Apple Bloom. After the major landmark episode Crusaders of the Lost Mark, the question that has been on many viewers' minds is a simple one. What happens to the Cutie Mark Crusaders now that they have their Cutie Marks? That's the exact question that this episode asks, and Dave Polsky answers it with a story that has a lot to enjoy and admire. The episode is kickstarted by a pretty humorous montage where the CMC try unsuccessfully to find a Cutie Mark problem, before finally coming to the aid of Bulk Biceps. Although his brief appearance feels like interchangeable fan service, it does make for an amusing scene inside the Crusaders clubhouse, and its quick resolution does actually help advance the story, saving his appearance from being a pointless one. When the CMC finally decide to separate to try their own individual things, it is brilliantly handled with respect and maturity. It would have been easy for Polsky to have the team have a bitter falling out that would lead to their disbandment, but I think such a decision would have likely ended up feeling really forced and beneath the characters. Thankfully, he takes the story down a much more sensible path, and it results in some great character development for Apple Bloom. It's easy to identify with her situation and relate to how she feels, as she fears that she's losing her closest friends and really struggles to handle the idea of being alone. During this, we get our first full song of the season with Out on My Own, and I have to say, this is a beautiful piece, perfectly expressing the emotional struggle that Apple Bloom endures when she's not with the two companions that have always been a major and meaningful part of her life. It's also the first time that she, and indeed any of the CMC, has received a solo song, and Michelle Creeber just nails the performance faultlessly. Her vocals have never sounded better in my opinion.
I guess as time goes by, every pony has to go out on their own, and maybe someday I'll have to try something new that's just for me, a little something that could be just my own, and I won't feel so left behind.
Speaking of which, Daniel Ingram's compositions have been really impressive so far this season, and that trend continues here. The score is lively and upbeat, not too dissimilar to something you might hear from Mark Mothersbaugh or Michael Giacchino, but hits all the right emotional beats when it needs to. Later, Apple Bloom meets a pony named Tender Taps, voiced adorably by Travis Turner, a very talented tap dancer struggling with stage fright. Initially oblivious to his dilemma due to being caught up in her own depression and frustration, Apple Bloom soon reunites with her friends, and together they help Tender Taps realize and express his special talent to an adoring audience. These climactic events help elevate the messages about self-confidence and remembering that true friendships will always remain strong even if you don't do everything together. The mutual decision that the CMC made to use their own unique interests as ways to help other ponies and collectively fulfill their destinies as a group opens the door to some potentially intriguing future stories and individual development for each of the Crusaders. The episode lacks focus though, as it moves from one series of events to the next without much of a cohesive structure. Balancing and shifting between all its storylines is something that it does handle decently well, but it never feels like the episode has a definitive idea of what it's meant to be about. Despite its somewhat clunky pacing, On Your Marks is packed with well-written scenes and characters, moral lessons that certainly ring true, and a conclusion that does a great job setting up the next part of the CMC's lives and stories. It makes me glad that Dave Polsky is still writing for the show, as while the narratives aren't always that impressive, I think he has one of the best understandings of how to write the Crusaders, and everything he delivers here adds up to a very satisfying post-Cutie Marks episode for them. even if it is a bit inconsistent. The stuff that works well really works well, and earns the episode a gold star score of 8 out of 10.